I knew something was off the second I read the subject line. Friday's the night. Once he's out of the way, we stop pretending. It was Marina's email. She'd left it open, still logged in. We shared the desk, and I was using her laptop because mine froze that morning. That subject line, it hit me like a brick to the teeth. I clicked it, thinking maybe it was a joke. It wasn't. It was from Derek. Yeah, that Derek. My buddy since college, best man at my wedding, neighbor 2 doors down. And that email wasn't a one-off. It was part of a thread going back almost 3 years. I scrolled through hotel reservations, receipts from a lakeside cabin, inside jokes about me. How, Arthur will thank us once it's over. They laughed about me. Me, like I was dead already. My hands went cold. I mean numb, like I just grabbed a live wire. But my brain, dead calm. I forwarded everything to an old Yahoo account I hadn't touched since high school, one Marina didn't know about. Then I deleted the sent folder, cleared the browser history, and shut the laptop like it bit me. When she walked through the door that night, I kissed her same as always. She said she had to work late tomorrow. Eyes on her phone, voice smooth. I told her that was fine. Then I made dinner. Nothing fancy, just salmon and rice. She said it was good. I nodded. I didn't taste a damn bite. That night, I didn't sleep. Just stared at the ceiling, arms behind my head, and thought about all the ways I'd been disappearing. Like how I did every oil change, paid every bill, fixed every gutter. And somewhere in there, I became a roommate with a wallet. Quick note before we go any further. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. Next morning, I went to the bank and started pulling out small amounts. Nothing that would set off alarms. By the end of the day, I had $6,300 in 20s tucked into a canvas tool bag behind my drill press. She never touched my tools. I also grabbed my dad's old Omega, worth real money if it came to that, and stuffed it into a sock at the bottom of my workbench drawer. That afternoon, I laid on the couch, pretending to nap. She was out on the patio with Derek and 2 of my old buddies, Shane and Colt. They were drinking beers and laughing. "Think it's too much?" Shane asked. "Nah," Colt said. "He'll roll with it." Marina chuckled. "This'll make the divorce easy. Once he feels small enough, he won't fight." I stood frozen in the kitchen, just out of sight, listening to the people I trusted most plan my humiliation. I decided something right then, clear as a bell. I wasn't going back. I stayed in the kitchen, still as a nail in a board, while their voices drifted in through the patio screen. Beer bottles clinked. Shane asked if this whole thing was too much. Colt said I'd roll with it, like I was some dog who'd flop over on command. Then Marina said the line that snapped something clean inside me. This would make the divorce easy because once I felt small enough, I wouldn't fight. I didn't breathe until they all laughed. Then I backed down the hall, grabbed my old Android from the drawer where I kept dead chargers and broken earbuds and powered it on. It still ran the burner rideshare app I used for job sites years back. I booked a pickup for the depot for 12:15 the next day. In the notes, I offered extra cash to keep quiet about the location. The driver accepted in less than a minute. After that, I cooked dinner like nothing had happened. Baked chicken, rosemary potatoes, basic, solid. Marina said it tasted great and asked if I was excited for my big surprise. I told her sure, I love surprises. My voice stayed steady. My hands didn't shake. I don't know how. Once she fell asleep, I packed. I rolled 2 shirts, jeans, steel-toe boots, my navy cap, and a rain shell tight enough to fit in my old gym bag. I slid 1,220s under the insert of my left boot. If they took my wallet, they wouldn't take that. Then I wrote the note to Lorraine. Short, cold, necessary. "I'm okay. Please don't come looking. You'll hear the version you want anyway." No signature. I left it in a drawer she always snooped through when she visited. Before sunrise, I went to my shop and gathered the things with real value. The Omega, my Les Paul I'd babied since I was 22, and a clean set of chisels that any pawn shop would take without blinking. I wrapped them in a moving blanket and put the bundle behind the seat of my truck. By 10:55, the crew showed up like we were filming some stupid prank show. Derek handed me a high-end scarf, said it was a present, and told me to wear it. Marina smiled like the muscles in her face were trained for someone else. I didn't fight any of it. I let them blindfold me. I let Derek spin me until the world tilted. I let them hoot and clap like they were all 12. Right before they led me to the truck, Marina leaned in close and whispered, "You'll be fine." Her breath was warm, but she felt a million miles away. That whisper wasn't comfort. It was dismissal. On the ride, I counted every turn, every stop, every acceleration point. That's a habit you pick up after enough years driving back roads in bad weather. You learn routes by the way the truck leans. After 53 minutes, I smelled diesel and weeds baking in the sun. Gravel crunched under the tires. County 24 fuel depot. I didn't need eyes to know it. They pulled me out, shouted, "Surprise!" like psychos, and laughed when I staggered. I reached for my pocket like I didn't know what was going on. Colt waved my phone from the truck window and yelled, "No cheating!" The truck peeled off, dust rising behind it. I waited until the taillights became pinpricks. The place was dead quiet except for wind scraping at the metal siding. I walked behind the cinder block office, stripped the blindfold off, and pulled the gym bag from where I'd stashed it behind the fence earlier that morning. I changed clothes fast, boots laced tight, cap low. I shoved the blindfold into my pocket and checked my watch. 12:07. I still had 8 minutes before the rideshare rolled in. So, I stepped out from behind the office and headed straight toward the depot gate, ready to leave the old life broken behind me. The rideshare rolled through the depot gate at 12:16, a dented green sedan that sounded like it needed a new belt. The driver leaned out his window, eyes twitchy like he expected hidden cameras. "Mr. Hall?" he asked. "Yep," I said, sliding into the back seat. He kept glancing at the empty lot behind us while pulling away. "Strange place for a pickup." "I know," I said. "That's why you're getting the extra." That shut him up. We headed straight for Warren and Bloom Pawn on the east side. I'd been there twice before. Fair prices, no questions. Just a bell over the door and a shop that smelled like dust and old carpet. Mr. Bloom stood behind the counter in suspenders that probably came with the building. I set the blanket down, unwrapped the Omega, the Les Paul, the chisels. He didn't say anything at first. He just put on his loop, flipped through serial numbers like he was reading gossip, and finally gave a soft whistle at the watch. "Clean," he said. "You sure about the guitar?" "Not sentimental anymore," I told him, though my chest tightened like I'd swallowed a tack. He nodded. No pity, no prying. He counted out $9,400 in cash, small bills, rubber banded. Then he added a dog-eared state gun law booklet he kept near the register. He held it up like a joke prize at a carnival. "Freebie," he said. "Appreciate it," I told him, even though I had no interest in the other thing. I bought a beat-up Samsonite from the back wall for $28 and traded some of the cash into mixed denominations so nothing looked fresh. Out front, the mini-mart cashier barely looked up when I asked for a prepaid SIM. She tossed it on the counter like she was dealing cards and rang me up. By 4:10 that afternoon, I was on a bus out of town. I picked a seat 2 rows from the back, cap low, gym bag under my boots. The windows were streaked with fingerprints and dried rain, and as the bus pulled onto the highway, I watched 10 years of my routine collapse behind me like someone cutting a power line. In the next city, I switched to the overnight bus to New York, paid cash. Nobody cared. I used the station sink to wash my face. The mirror was scratched so bad it split my reflection into pieces, but I still saw a lighter look in my eyes, like someone had cracked a window in a room that had been sealed too long. On the bus, I bought a cheap notebook from the vending machine and wrote a list. Find work, new ID, keep head down, no hero stuff, no calls. I drew boxes next to each one and left them all blank. It felt like laying out studs before raising a wall. Port Authority hit just after 6 a.m., the place humming like an anthill that hadn't slept in a decade. I found a small cafe, slid into a booth, and let the noise fade into a dull roar. At the travel counter across the hall, I bought a one-way ticket to Barcelona by way of Dublin, cash only. The clerk didn't blink. People vanish every day in cities like that. Before I left the terminal, I stopped at the public library 2 blocks over. It opened at 7. I took a computer near the back, plugged in the prepaid SIM, and drafted one email to Derek's wife. Subject: You should know. I attached 3 PDFs of hotel bills, 2 screenshots of Marina's messages, and nothing else. No threats, no story, no return address. Just the evidence landing in her lap like a brick. After that, I ditched the SIM in a trash can outside and walked toward the shuttle for the airport. My legs felt steady. My hands didn't. On the plane, I took a window seat, laid my head back, and watched the coastline drift away like it wasn't mine anymore. I whispered the truth I'd been choking down for years. I was done being somebody's practice target. The engines rumbled beneath me, a steady hum that felt almost like assurance. Somewhere over the Atlantic, the weight finally slipped. My eyes closed hard, and I slept the way a man sleeps after clawing his way out of a river, heavy, empty, alive. I woke to the landing gear dropping and tightened my seatbelt, ready to step into whatever came next. The room I rented in El Poble Sec had tile floors, cracked grout, and a ceiling fan that rattled like a jar of bolts. The window faced a narrow alley packed with laundry lines, barking dogs, and voices yelling about lunch or football. Compared to where my head had been 2 days earlier, it was paradise. My Spanish was good enough to get by. Working job sites in Texas and New Mexico gave me more vocabulary than high school ever did. I walked into 3 labor halls the first morning and grabbed whatever was posted. No ego. I unloaded freight at the port, helped set forms for a restoration project up in Sants, and took night shifts as a warehouse watchman, where my only job was to keep the local kids from tagging the loading dock. I slept maybe 4 hours at a time. Rest of the day I studied the patterns at the port, who always came in late, which truckers ran light, which containers kept showing up short on manifests. I listened more than I talked. Guys who run their mouths don't last long in transit yards. I kept my boots on the ground and my name off anything I could. 2 weeks in, I noticed a mismatch in pallet counts. Our yard supervisor kept logging transfers that didn't happen. I saw it because the same 3 trucks showed up twice a week and never had a complaint. They were too happy. People don't stay quiet unless they're in on it, or they're being overcharged without realizing. I brought it to the yard manager. Quiet, direct, no accusations, just the numbers. "You see that from here?" he asked, tapping the clipboard like it had a secret. "From counting," I said, "and from listening to Who Doesn't Complain." He looked at me a long beat, then called upstairs. By the end of the shift, the supervisor was gone. No speeches, no goodbye, just gone. They moved me to shift lead. Pay wasn't amazing, but it showed up on time. I still didn't buy anything I couldn't carry myself in one trip. I paid rent in cash and used my middle name when anyone asked. I left no trail. Nights, I walked the waterfront with a €1 coffee and read whatever free shipping newsletters I could find on my phone. I learned how port fees stacked, how customs delays ripple through entire ledgers, how fuel surcharges crushed margins faster than weather ever could. No one was teaching me. I just watched. One rainy morning, a dark sedan pulled through the main gate with a company logo I didn't recognize. 4 people stepped out, 1 woman in a navy blazer and heels sharp enough to break glass, the rest in boots and windbreakers. She walked like time owed her something. Clipboard tight to her side, jaw locked. She asked 3 questions in Spanish, rapid fire, then switched to English and asked if I spoke both. I said yes. She pointed at the pallets we'd just unloaded and said, "If 2 are short, what's your fix?" I said, "Log it, call the carrier, check the weigh-in, and backtrack the manifest before end of day." She nodded once like I'd passed a test I didn't know I was taking. "I'm Evelyn Vaughn," she said. "You work here full-time?" "Shift lead," I said. She didn't smile, just made a note on her clipboard and walked past me toward the yard office without saying another word. But I knew right then, I was on her radar. A week after that first meeting, Evelyn called me into her port office. Small space, no decoration except a wall calendar with shipping rates scribbled in the margins. She didn't bother with small talk. "How'd you catch the ghost pallets?" she asked, looking me dead in the eye. I said, "Same way you did, the trucks that never complain and the bosses who don't ask enough questions." That was enough for her. She offered me a 2-day-a-week contract to help clean up invoicing and map out transfer times. I signed the papers, showed up early, and worked straight through lunch without needing anyone to watch me. It wasn't glamorous, just numbers, mud, and container logs. But I liked it. Nothing fake about logistics. You're either efficient or you're bleeding cash. I built a spreadsheet that lined up fuel surcharges with tide charts, labor rotations, and delay patterns. Her operations chief, Carlos, a guy who liked buzzwords more than cargo, said I was overcomplicating the workflow. 2 weeks later, we shaved 11% off dwell time. Evelyn brought me in full-time as an analyst. No big announcement. Just handed me a contract and pointed to a desk with a window view of the cranes. Said, "You're on salary now. Don't waste it." She asked me to train 2 supervisors we pulled in from other yards, gave me a clean company phone and a badge that actually opened every gate. I kept my past locked down, told people I moved to Spain after a rough divorce. That was enough to shut down curiosity without triggering sympathy. Evelyn never pushed. She ran the company like a boat in choppy water, calm voice, hands steady, never reacting louder than the storm. One quarter, we got a port offer out of Scandinavia that looked like gold on paper, prime real estate, flexible contracts, everything timed just before their fiscal close. Evelyn called me in. "What do you think?" she asked, already skeptical. "Too clean," I told her. "It's pressure pricing. Look at the patterns." She tilted her head. "Show me." I pulled up 3 months of port traffic, showed her how ships had been anchored for days with no turnaround. Then I laid out an alternative, a slot in Ghent with used capacity for half the price and better tide advantage. We took Ghent, avoided a burn. That quarter closed steady while competitors ate fuel costs and filed insurance claims. After that, she started pulling me into meetings I wasn't on the calendar for. Sitting in the corner while executives threw jargon across the room, then she'd turn to me and ask, "Do we actually need this?" "Yes," or "No," I'd say, and I always had a reason that fit on one line. We cut a software upgrade that no one used, dropped a third-party inspection service that just passed everything anyway, and dumped a consultant who billed like a surgeon and left behind useless pie charts. The company got leaner, the work got tighter, my name started showing up in more rooms. Then the strike hit. 2 ports, ours and one farther south, went into lockdown over wage disputes and equipment issues. Evelyn pulled us into a windowless room with a whiteboard, 2 laptops, and 4 staff leads. "We're going to be first in and last out," she said. "Arthur, tell me where we pivot." I grabbed the marker and mapped the route straight on the glass. We reallocated crew rotations, shifted dead freight to Rotterdam, pulled 2 backup drivers from Valencia, and backloaded partials until we hit 92% efficiency. It wasn't perfect, but it kept us from drowning. While everyone else scrambled, we delivered. After that, the room changed. Evelyn didn't just see me as a guy with a clipboard. She started asking about my weekends, my habits. One day she asked what I thought about leasing equipment versus buying. "Depends on how long you plan to stay in the fight," I said. She didn't answer right away, just nodded like she was filing it away. We stayed professional, always. Reporting lines were clean. But when we worked late, past midnight, shoes off, paper coffee cups scattered like chess pieces, something shifted in the air. Not loud, not messy. One night, we wrapped up final routing on a shipment that had been driving everyone nuts. She leaned back in her chair, rubbed her eyes, then looked at me. "You should eat before you go home," she said. Her voice was soft but solid. I stood, grabbed my jacket, and held the door open for her like it was nothing. But it wasn't. A chain of bad debt snapped in Asia like a blown axle, and the whole global line seized up. Ports froze. Containers stacked like firewood. Clients panicked. Everyone tried to sell at once, like a theater on fire with one exit and no air left. Evelyn called me at 5:30 in the morning from a hotel in Antwerp. Her voice was already moving at full speed. "What's our exposure if we buy capacity while everyone else is running?" I didn't sugarcoat it. "Worst case, we get crushed. Best, we double. Plan, 3 parts," I said. 1. Absorb 2 mid-sized depots being liquidated in the scramble. They're undervalued, no one's looking. 2. Buy route rights from Carrier West before their debt note expires next quarter. They're fire selling. 3. Sign a staffing deal at Porto Velho. Everyone avoids it because of the road delays, but the port's sound. "Board wants to hold cash," she said. I figured. She went quiet for a full minute, then said, "If you're wrong, am I out of a company?" "If I'm wrong," I told her, "I'm out of a career. If I'm right, we own the tide." She took the bet. We bought what other people threw out, stripped, refit, and kept the right ones close. For 6 months, the phones didn't stop. Not because of new clients, but vendors begging to renegotiate now that they were finally on their heels. Everyone else was bleeding. We were calm, cash ready, and already moving. Competitors trimmed fat. We ate it. We absorbed staff, equipment, second-hand contracts that came with headaches, but also leverage. By the time freight stabilized, Vaughan Atlantic wasn't just standing. We were twice the size and moving faster than we ever had. The business press called it counter-cyclical strategy. Some even called it luck. They weren't there at 5 in the morning when we made the call. Somewhere in that chaos, things shifted between me and Evelyn. It started with work dinners, turning into actual dinners. One night, after wrapping doc scheduling for a Greek buyer, she asked, "Could we talk about something other than cargo for once?" I said, "I don't know how." She laughed, not polite, not controlled. Real laugh, first time I'd heard it. We kept it quiet. She was my boss. I answered to her. We told HR before we told anybody else, kept reporting lines clean, and let the work speak louder than anything personal. There were no secrets, just discretion. The kind earned, not forced. One foggy morning outside Ghent, we sat in a modular trailer going over the final acquisition paperwork. Her pen scratched through the last line. She leaned back, rolled her neck, and asked, "Do you regret the jump?" I looked out the smudge window, watched a container swing off a lift like a pendulum, and said, "No." 11 months later, we stood in a civil office in Barcelona. No big ceremony, just 2 witnesses, 2 signatures, and a gold band that fit right the first time. No vows, no performance. Just truth, sealed clean. Afterward, we didn't fly anywhere or throw a party. We didn't even take the afternoon off. We went straight back to the yard, grabbed clipboards, and counted inbound containers like it was any other Tuesday. At lunch, she asked if I wanted to grab sandwiches. I said, "Sure, long as it's not tuna." She smirked, stood, and grabbed her jacket. And we walked out of the office side by side, not just running the company anymore, we were building it, together. 3 years into the marriage, we were splitting our time between Barcelona and New York. The company had outgrown any single time zone, and so had we. That week we were in Manhattan, riding a gray afternoon in her corner office, going through new proposals. Rain hit the windows like it meant something. Her assistant forwarded a broker note. Tierney Bowman Construction seeks financing for European expansion. My eyes stopped cold on the name. Bowman. That was Marina's maiden name. Heat started crawling up my neck before I even blinked. Evelyn caught it. "You all right?" she asked, glancing at me over her screen. I nodded once. "I know the family." She sat back. "How well?" "Well enough," I said, and left it there. She didn't push. We opened the packet together. On the surface, it looked clean. Slick charts, tidy branding, buzzwords that tried a little too hard. But once we got to the numbers, it started falling apart. Heavy on projected revenue, light on facts, lots of letters of intent, no contracts. Strategic partnerships that sounded more like coffee dates. Evelyn leaned forward. "We can pass." "There's nothing here worth chasing," I heard myself say. "Let's take the meeting." She turned her head slowly. "You sure?" "I need to see it," I said. "Not for drama, for closure." She watched me for a long 3 count, then nodded. "You set the terms. We keep it clean." That night, I stayed late. Pulled up public records, permit logs, supplier cases in 3 states. I didn't add opinion, just hard numbers. Debt-to-asset ratio, aging payables, open litigation, 2 liens on their heavy equipment, 1 pending. I made a short summary packet. No color, no spin. We scheduled the meeting for Thursday at 9:30 sharp, our Midtown conference room overlooking the park. I came in early, didn't talk to anyone, just went straight to the mirror in the men's room. Adjusted my gray suit, smoothed the lapels. The watch on my wrist wasn't some hand-me-down. It was a used Omega I bought myself in cash in Barcelona after earning my place. No ghosts. At 9:25, I walked into the room and laid the packet out next to Evelyn's seat. She glanced over the table setup and gave a slight nod. "They'll be on time," she said. I looked out over the park, hands steady. 5 minutes later, the receptionist buzzed the front desk. They were here. They showed up on time, just like the calendar said. Marina wore a navy dress that matched the polish on her nails. Derek had on a tailored coat and that fake casual posture he always used when he thought he was in control. The third one was some junior advisor who looked 40, but tried to dress like he was 25. Evelyn greeted them like she greets everyone, polite, firm, measured. I sat with my back to the window, already flipping through the packet, pen in hand. I didn't look up for the first full minute, just let them settle in, let the air tighten. When I did finally raise my eyes, Marina's face drained white, then flushed red so fast I could feel the heat from across the table. Her lips parted. "Arthur," she whispered. "Mr. Hale," I said calmly. "Chief Strategy for Vaughn Atlantic Lines." I nodded toward Evelyn. "And my wife." The advisor blinked like someone had turned the lights up too fast. Derek froze mid-reach for a water bottle, then started talking fast. Words like synergies, market alignment, timeline integrity. All fluff. Evelyn didn't stop him. She just let him dig his own hole. Then, without a word, she slid my summary packet across the table. I walked them through it, flat, even tone. I didn't add anything that wasn't on the page. "Your suppliers are sitting at 128 days unpaid," I said. "The bank line against your equipment is in technical default. The partnerships you've listed for Europe are all unsigned. 2 are verbal, one's a LinkedIn message thread." Marina blinked hard, then leaned in. "We looked everywhere for you," she said. "We filed missing persons reports. We thought something happened." I let the silence stretch long enough to land. "I was fine," I said. "I just stopped going where I wasn't wanted." Derek straightened his shoulders. "This is about the deal." Evelyn didn't flinch. "It is," she said. "Do you have any executed contracts we can review?" They didn't. Not one. "We'll pass," she said, standing. "Thank you for coming." We all stood, no extra words, no handouts. Evelyn shook hands, firm and clean. The junior advisor stepped out to call the broker and do damage control. Marina stayed behind and looked at me. "Can I speak to you alone?" Evelyn didn't move. "You can say anything you need to say with me here." Marina's eyes darted between us. "Why?" I didn't hesitate. "Because you blindfolded me on my birthday and left me at a dead fuel depot while my so-called friends laughed from a truck bed. Because you called it a test. That's why." She didn't argue. She didn't deny it. She just stared at her hands like they belonged to someone else. I felt nothing. No heat, no shake in my chest, just still. We walked to the elevator together. Marina and Derek didn't say a word. The doors opened. We stepped in. The doors closed. Word got around. Not about me, about them. The numbers didn't lie. Another firm tried to thread the needle with Tierney Bowman Construction and bailed after due diligence. 6 months later, a supplier lawsuit hit the trades and stuck. I didn't celebrate. I didn't even blink. I went back to work. Some nights, I'd lie in bed and think about the house I left, the smell of sawdust in my shop, the worn finish on the Les Paul I'd played at 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep. I'd see that moment the truck pulled away, my whole life packed behind tinted glass, and I'd remember how the air tasted that day. Sharp, clean, like a new key turning in a long locked door. About a year after that boardroom meeting, Derek sent a message through a mutual acquaintance. Wanted to clear the air, let me hear his side. I declined. I've heard enough sides to know when there's nothing left but excuses in a nicer suit. On our 10th wedding anniversary, Evelyn and I took a ferry at dusk. No itinerary, just the water and the cold wind pushing small lines across the surface. She leaned against the rail and asked, "Do you ever regret not giving Marina a real piece of your mind?" "No," I said. I already took back what mattered. Later that summer, we sanded down the spare room and turned it into a workshop. Nothing fancy, just a bench, a shelf of hand tools, a floor covered in soft wood shavings, and an old radio that popped too loud when you turned the dial. On the wall, I mounted a photo of the cranes in Barcelona, the same ones I used to walk past with cheap coffee in one hand and a checklist in the other. Looking back, I should have known the night I heard them laughing in the backyard that I wasn't just leaving a marriage, I was leaving a version of myself, the one that kept making room for everyone else's comfort while mine rotted under the floorboards. I don't think about revenge much. I think about outcomes. Truth lands where it should. You tighten the bolts you can reach. You leave the stripped ones alone before you make a worse mess trying to fix them. If there's justice in any of it, it's this. They plan to make me feel small. Instead, I found out how big my life could be without them. I didn't win loud. I won by walking, by building, by staying still when the past knocked. Every so often, when the trucks hit the yard just as the sun rises, I remember County 24, gravel under my boots, heart beating fast, a car pulling up at exactly the right moment, and I swear I can still feel the knot slide off my eyes. I didn't go home. I built one. Would you have taken the meeting if you were in my shoes? Drop your answer in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this.